Upstart 2016, the first series. We're going to be talking about growth hacking and why is CitrusPay suddenly doing such a thing. Well, Citrus has grown as a startup. We know what it takes to build a company from zero to doing millions of transactions a day. And I think it's now time for Citrus to give back to the community it came from. So we're just rolling out two series. One is called Upstart for Startups, and there's also a series called Code Up for targeted at code developers. Both Upstart and Code Up are going to be ways in which we reach out to the community, give them chances to use our code, build solutions above Citrus solutions, but more than anything else, learn from our learnings, share your learnings with us. Tell us if you require some particular solution around payments which we could work out for you, or just generally learn from each other, from everyone's experience. So in the first series on growth hacking, I'm having the co-founder of Hoopla, Praveen. He's going to be talking about how he did $0 marketing. I also have with me Anish, who heads new initiatives at Citrus. And he's going to be telling how he did a couple of growth hacks in his previous ventures. Sure, so I'm just handing this over to Praveen now.
So I'll give you a very, I want this to be a more of an interactive session because Hoopla as it is a Series A funded company. We have also raised follow-on funding from InMobi, that's Naveen Tiwari and Raghunandan of TFS and so on. But end of the day, this is to focus on the pre-funding phase and how we actually grew from 0 to 100,000 users or 100,000 installs in the first 1 year before we got funded. Right? So this is going to be about that journey. So I'll give you a very, very quick brief about how we got there using some of the techniques that we did. But end of the day, this is about my experience and it may not be relevant to you. Right? It's about you need to find out what works for you. Right? So we can make it more interactive. I'll be happy to take questions. Probably I'll just talk about how we grew for the first 100K for the first 10 minutes and then I'll throw open the floor to questions. Does it work? So you can think of Hoopla as an Instagram for fashion. So what people do is to upload what actually is a women's fashion discovery app. So what women do is to upload what they are wearing on an everyday basis, and what we do is to deconstruct that look into a top, a skirt, a shoe, accessories, handbags, maybe even a lipstick and a nail polish. Right? So this is done two ways. There's manual curation as well as an image recognition that's applied on it. So I was telling about what Hoopla is. It's a women's fashion discovery app. You can think of it as an Instagram for fashion. So what women do is to upload what they're wearing on an everyday basis on the platform so that it inspires several other people to get inspiration on fashion looks, what's trendy, what's stylish, and give them ideas on what to pair and match things with. Right? So the way this is done is that once the lady uploads the look onto the platform, we deconstruct it on the back end. Two means. One is we run an image recognition algorithm which tries to, with a confidence level of about 60 to 65%, it's successfully. So the way it works is that we have manual curators who look at the most popular feeds of the top influencers on the platform, like your fashion bloggers and models and so on, and they tag the items individually. That is to say, let's say somebody is wearing a blue and white polka dotted top. What the image recognition algorithm does is to say the colors are blue and white, the pattern is polka, and the silhouette is that of a crop top. So we have a repository of crawled items from Japan, Photo 21, Zara, and so on, and it tries to find the closest match. Right? And it says, this seems very similar to this, so you can buy this from this site. So it's completely an affiliate model. So you can think of it as a lead gen model for all these various e-commerce and brand services. In addition to that, what we follow is the USP is essentially that of a fashion micro trend calendar. So if you look at the fashion season, it's split into a spring, summer, and an autumn winter, the two seasons, right? And if you look at fast fashion firms, for example, Photo 21, Zara, every 2 weeks if you go to the store, you will find something new. So we internally in Hoopla follow our weekly micro trend calendar. That is to say, Priyanka Chopra wore white asymmetrical off-shoulder dress to go on the red carpet. And we find out that some Chinese actress in some other red carpet was wearing something similar. So we figure out that there is some fashion forecasting being done. We think this is going to be popular in the coming weeks. And we try to source all similar sort of looks and accordingly tag those tops or those dresses to the corresponding e-commerce and brand stores. Right? So what we do is not just trend analysis, what's trending right now. We also tell women what is going to be trending. So what's trending in about 2 weeks' time, right? And we also create all these fashion intelligence reports. So we work with Amazon, we work with Forward 21, we tell them this is what's going to be trending. Why don't you stock these? We think it's going to be trending 2 months from now. Stock them for us, so that we will actually include them in our collections and tag them in our looks being uploaded. So the best part about it is, instead of actually looking at a regular, we don't own any inventory, right? There is no catalog per se. All that we show is what's available elsewhere. So the way it works is that instead of showing that product image of a perfectly shot model in a studio by an art director with an ace photographer and heavily photoshopped, which a woman cannot necessarily identify with, we actually show a real woman, right, wearing similar clothes and saying that, okay, you know what, this is how it's going to look on me. And that connect helps conversions increase. So that is the fundamental principles in which Hoopla was built on. So we have got about 1.4 million installs, and I can give you data going back to October last year. So we have about 480k MAU and 120k DAU. So those are the non-vanity metrics that we have. We also have the app opened 3 times in a week per user, right? Session times are upwards of 120 seconds. So these are metrics which are usually quite high for any social app. So, and I'm going to focus more on the growth phase now, which is the pre-funding era. So we have been funded by Helion, before which we were funded by angels and seed investment as well. Our angel investors include Sunil Kadra, Jasprit Bindra, who's of ex-Microsoft and ex-CEO of Get It LLP, is currently heading Mahindra Retail. We have Vivek Pandit, ex-McKinsey MD. We also have Rahul Khanna as well, who's Trifecta Capital, currently an ex-Canaan Partners VC. Right? So those were angels. They bring in different skill sets to the table. And besides that, we also have Naveen Tiwari and team, which has invested. So InMobi has invested in Hoopla as a strategic investment. We power the entire fashion ads, the Neat platform per se. And besides that, we also have Raghunandan of TFS, who's invested in us. Helion is a principal investor, a 5 million Series 8 round that we raised in January last year. So in the pre-funding phase, what essentially happened was we grew from 0 to about 100k installs, before which we got the first round of funding. In order to do that, when we actually started off this platform, here were 4 guys who were making an app or a platform for women, and it was about fashion. So we knew not much about it. So the way we started off was to validate the idea. We realized that there was this, in 2 days time, this was way back in like 2012, right? So there was this cultural festival that was happening in Jyoti Niwas College in Koramangala. So it was called Scintillations, and we took up a stall over there and we said, let's quickly hash up a site which looks very similar to Pinterest. The Masonry CSS is what we picked up. And he said, all that people have to do is come to a stall, click a photo of what they're wearing, maybe it's a shoe, and say where they bought it from, or a handbag, whatever it is, and put it on our Facebook page. We wrote a script that will crawl whatever was put up on Facebook and put it on Pinterest. And we said we gamified it by saying that every hour we'll give away a 100 rupee voucher from Shoppers Stall. That was it. We started off, nobody walked into the stall for the first 1 hour or so. So it was, things were not going according to plan. As in terms of, our aim was that if we get 50 Facebook likes, this was the era when we had just started up Hoopla, we just bought the domain name, idea validation was yet to happen. We had about 200 likes where friends and family were forcibly made to like the Facebook page. Right? So we said if we get 50 to 100 Facebook likes, and maybe if we get about 25-30 uploads, I think we got enough validation for a concept such as ours. Good to pack up, go back to coding and push the product out, right? So what actually happened was something that was quite different. So these 3 girls walked into a stall and they said, what is this about? So we said, this is what it's, you just have to upload what you're wearing, tag it where you bought it from, and ask your friends to like it. That's it. And if you have the highest number of likes, we're going to give you this voucher. That was it. So what was supposed to be an internal college event actually while we spread to Bombay, Kolkata, everywhere else, end of day 2, we got about 1,200 likes on our Facebook page. We had about 200 uploads. The highest upload had some, I don't know, 1,900 likes or something like that. I don't remember. So it started off. So what we realized was that we stopped the competition. After it was a 2-day cultural festival, so it stopped over there. But what we realized was people were still coming to our Facebook page and uploading what they were wearing. So we replied to them saying that you do realize that we are not going to give you any, vouchers. So they said we are not doing it for that. We just love the concept. Loving the concept of me sharing something and some other woman appreciating my style, my taste, saying that I found a shopping buddy of mine, right? So this changed the paradigm. This actually validated our idea completely, right? So we said, okay, good. We've got an idea that works. We're going to go back to the drawing board and put the product out as soon as possible. 4 months later, we created a mobile website. This was still 2012. Mobile was still not top priority for us. We adopted a user-first approach rather than a mobile-first approach. So the idea was to say whichever touch point the user was in, they want to be there. So if it was mobile, it was a mobile-optimized responsive website. We had a regular normal website. So what then happened was that we realized that the strategy was never going to be, we never had money, so we were not going to invest in marketing per se. So all that we did was, we said, we'll try and use social as much as possible, but then that's anybody's game. Like how are you going to get 10,000 likes or 20,000 likes or get people to propagate a viral hashtag on Twitter? It's not easy, right? So what we then decided was to make this a closed system. It was going to be invite only, which made it very exclusive. We did not give any invites to our friends and family when we launched it. We said the only way you can get it is if you knew the founders, right? So the first 600 people who came on Hoopla, we met them personally. Each and every one of them, I met them personally along with one of my co-founders, right? I either emailed them in case they were not in town. I called them up again if they were not in town. If they were in Bangalore, I went and met them. The idea behind doing this was that it broke down that, it was an icebreaker per se. They're not going to be nice to you after that. They're going to be really brutal to you with their feedback. And that's what we need. At the end of the day, we wanted to build a platform. We wanted to build it on not so niceties, because that's what your friends and family are going to do for you. They're going to support you throughout the way. So here were complete strangers who were influencers. And we met everybody in every sphere. It could be a boutique owner, it could be a restaurateur, it could be a model, it could be a photographer, a designer, anybody. A housewife even, right? But these were people who had 5,000 followers or more on Twitter. That was the way we defined an influencer back in 2012. Of course, the metrics would be very, very different now. So the way we did was to go and meet them and we said contribute to the platform. We sat, we decided how it worked. I still have most of their numbers. Many of them do not use Hoopla right now because Hoopla has since then, the TG is now focused more towards 18 to 24 women, followed by 25 to 30. So, and many of these people we met are 26 plus at that point in time. So they're already in the 30 plus category now. So the way it works is that since we made it exclusive and all these people had the ability to go and share it somewhere, right? They share it on Twitter, Facebook saying that I found this really awesome item on Hoopla. And people are like, what is this Hoopla? I want to be a part of it. And they click on it, right? And they say, get onto the waiting list. So we managed to grow a waiting list of about some 5,000 people within, I think, 4 to 6 months. That's sort of a time frame, right? And then we decided we still don't want to open it up to everybody. We said that to all existing influencers on the platform, we will give them 3 invites each, right? So we did not give them 10 invites, we did not give them 20 invites. We told them, be very choosy, because at the end of the day, it's a user-generated content system. So the quality of the feed is very important. And these were days when mobile phones did not have as good cameras. The quality of photo, people did not take great photos, it was terrible. So that's why we went with influencers per se. And since they actually defined a standard on the system for other people to follow, we said, be very careful about who you want to invite. So they took the onus on themselves to make sure only the top other similar users who like the platform, who subscribe to the idea of what Hoopla was, join the system. So we grew from 600 to 2,000 that way. And since we had another 5,000 or so in the waiting list, we opened it up to them and opened it up to anybody. It was still a soft launch. We still never advertised, right? Post that, what we realized was it was very difficult for us to even, a referral system is still incentivized, and we did not have any virtual currency as such. And it was completely discovery. There was no commerce in the system yet. Commerce was launched only about 4 months back, right? You could buy on Hoopla only 4 months back, not before. So it was completely discovery based, where a girl goes on the platform, she looks at endless stream of inspiration, fashion, follows girls whose fashion taste matches theirs, adds something to the wish list or love them, or leave a comment or a compliment, right? So this is the way it was working. So what then happened now is that we realized it's impossible for us to do $0 marketing, but it's possible for us to do absolute minimal dollar marketing, right? In a sense, you put, let's say, 5,000 rupees and you get the maximum return. But in order for us to do that, which I will come to later, there are other things that we could do. Like for example, if you go on Outbrain, you just have to create an account, launch a campaign, or rather start setting up a campaign and not launch it. After about a week, you'll get $100. Okay, so I set up like 10 odd email accounts, got $1,000, started advertising through that. After which, same concept worked even with Facebook. Got about another 10 email IDs, launched, started creating an ad, will not launch it. You will get $50 in credit in your email account within a week or two. Right? So these were tricks. Every trick in the book was followed. We got as much money as possible, started advertising, started testing the industry to understand how are people reacting to the content on the web. Right? This is the time we also started focusing on mobile. So we started launching a mobile app. It was terrible. It was very buggy. It was very slow. Got terrible ratings. We took it down because this was not a native app. And then we started building a native app. So we realized, but during this time, we still needed people to come. We needed to increase traffic. So we started attacking colleges because we knew this is the place where most of the people, our core target audience, resided. Right? So we again looked at your cultural festivals and MBA fests and so on and so forth. And what we actually did was we did about, I think I did roughly about 24 to 25 fests in all top colleges, women's colleges primarily. And what then happened was that we realized I failed in almost 22 of them. Only 3 campaigns worked. But the campaign that worked, where there was this campaign in Christ College that we did, which has about more than 12,000 students by the way. So we said, okay, here is a huge chunk of audience that I can actually acquire before I go for funding, because funding talks had already started. So I had to go hit numbers. So the only way I could do it was I had to pay 10,000 rupees for becoming the primary sponsor of a particular event. It yielded 5,000 users for me, 5,000 sign-ups, not visits, right? Visits were way more than that, but I got 5,000 sign-ups. It means basically there were like 12,000 people who visited the website in a short period of about 3 days. So it worked. So what we realized was that the more you do, you finally crack the model or the methodology or the modus operandi that you want to work with, right? You're not going to get it right the first time. You got to keep trying and not give up. That's more important. So once you actually find a model that works, take that model and go again to all the colleges, and that's what we did. So we replicated the web model for mobile to actually drive app downloads. But then the initial euphoria of driving 2,000 installs in a day died down because we actually saw an uninstall rate of 80% the D7 retention was 80%. Sorry, 20%. 80% actually was a churn. So we realized that this is also not going to work because it's good in the sense that we are able to knock out these numbers.
7-day retention.
80% churn, 20% retention. D7 numbers. So D7 metrics are D plus 7. After 7 days of installing an app, how many people are still being retained? Right? So this was becoming a more important metric because VCs were also becoming smarter. They were not going by pure numbers, right? And this was still 2013. Okay. Nowadays it's even worse. I mean, people are looking for profitability. So the game has completely changed. So they look at your bottom lines, not even your top line or your GMV or your run rates. So those days are over. So they now want essentially a working business model. I mean, a business model which is very sound and can actually give you a good IRR return rather than a 3x exit, right? That's what people are looking for now. But anyway, going back to 2013 and late 2013 and early 2014, this was the game that we had. So we were still notching up all the installs that we needed. We had already touched upon 40,000 installs in the first 6 months or so. I still had to hit 60,000 installs before we got any sort of investment to say we had enough traction. So we launched a lot of SEO heavy, tricks. Okay. So what we realized was that after the Panda or Penguin update, I don't remember which one it was, because there was one particular change which said if you're able to give a lot of filters in your web, Google loves that. So all that we had to do is we created these trend pages. We knew what was trending. We had like about 100 looks, about anywhere between 70 to 80, 70 to 100. Right? All these women are just uploading looks and a lot more consuming them. And we had a 90 to 10 content consumption to content creation rate in terms of users. Very, very healthy and expected for a non-mature system. Because if you look at Twitter, it's always 99-1. That's the system that we follow. If out of 100 users, you'll have one person who generates a tweet, who creates a tweet, 9 people who interact with that tweet, who like or retweet or favorite it, and other 90 just consume it. They are just passive users. In our case, it was 90-10. Okay. So 10 people were actually creating content, which was very, very good for us. So we actually started working on that, started moving on. We eventually, there were quite a few other tricks that we followed, which I don't think I can say right now, but then it's not completely legal. Do it. It doesn't matter. Because these are desperate times, you do it. And sometimes, unless you have enough users on the system, you're not able to do sample A/B tests. And those are critical to understand, is it aiding your user flow, is a particular feature working or not, and you need to know. And the only way you can do that is through, again, get 2000 installs in one day through some college fest, or however it is. But make sure it's legitimate means. Do not do it via incentivized ads or anything. Do not invest in ads until then. Okay? If you're investing in growth before you have retention, you're essentially renting users. You're not acquiring them. That's a fundamental principle in marketing. It's marketing 101 actually. So what we did was to go ahead and acquire these users in a very short period. Try and show them the core user experience, which is the onboarding experience. It's very, very important. If you've got a very solid onboarding experience, the chances of you increasing your D7 and D30 is very, very high. They're going to stick with you for that much longer. So it's good investing in that. But for you to realize what onboarding activity works better, what onboarding flow works better, you need a sizable audience for you to do your multivariate testing or A/B testing. So do any sort of trick that will get you the core minimum amount of users in order to determine that. So once that is done, you're already way better off. Okay. And then we continued going that. We went at a good pace, hit 80K. That's when Rahul Khanna of Trifecta Capital and Xcanaan, he decided to invest, and we told him, can you give us a bigger round? Can you get some of your folks in as well? And he got Jaspreet and Vivek Pandit and Sunil Kalra. So soon after that, talks with Helion started. Series A, once you have money, the game is very, very different. Money can do a lot of wonderful things. Our app became 10 times better in terms of speed. We were able to hire much better developers. Dedicated team for marketing, dedicated team for creatives, fashion, business development, everything. So it changes the game. But then the aim over here is to focus more on the pre-funding phase, which is what I've told you. I told you my experience. I'm happy to take questions because I believe most of you are on the prototype or the seed stage. Most of the companies over here. I'm happy to take questions to specifically answer any of the pain points or any growth hacking doubts that you may have.
These influencers, you said you met 500, 600 influencers, right?
600, yes.
Yeah, on social media, Twitter.
Yeah. So, just one small clarification there. On Twitter it was 5,000. The metrics for Facebook and everything else was different.
Yes. So, how do you, two questions. One is, how did you identify these people? Number two is, what was the incentive for them to be associated with you?
Right. So, to answer your first question, first, Twitter, you go to any of those Twitter influencer lists. It says these are the users who are top in your city, sort of a list. Go up there. Make a list of. You go to the Twitterverse sort of a site which tells you top 10 users in Bangalore, top 20 users in Bangalore, whatever.
The website also, BuzzSumo.
BuzzSumo is there, but that's for content marketing.
It's a paid version, but initially, it's some $9, I guess, for a month.
But it's good for content marketing. To understand which of your websites URLs fit better. Like if you have some blog. So the other thing that I did was to blog every day. The first 100 blogs I wrote it personally. Every 2 days I was blogging. You write about anything. You write about your users. I said Wonder Woopal of the week, and I'll feature a particular user. I'll go and interview. So I interviewed Sharmila Nicolette, Sachin Bansal, a whole lot of people. The badminton player, I forget her name. The girl from Cool, Yes, Ashwini Ponnappa, Aviva Bedappa was Prasad Bedappa's daughter. So all these people are enough things, and then you write about them, they're more than happy to share on Twitter, and so you get a lot of it. You get these. Initially, your days are like spikes.
It is really that work. I mean, because a lot of people visited the
It
site.
doesn't matter.
The whole idea was
The conversions are very bad. I'll tell you that much. You'll be lucky if you get 2% conversion.
the idea was to make it just.
But then when you have 100,000 hits, 2% is still 2,000. So the point is, for example, Ashwini Ponnappa has got more than 100k followers on Twitter. 2 tweets and a Facebook update, you're done. You got your money's worth from that.
So how do you convince these people? Because when you ask for such things, if you ask an
You
influencer
have to
to
ask.
post about, of course you have to ask, but it's really difficult when you have to convince someone to post a content that they really maybe not ready to.
So that's the funny part, right? I was talking about blogging. So they were not users on Google. I asked them to join. Some of them did. Most of them did not. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're blogging. It's content. Okay. So initially I was blogging, and then I realized again after the Penguin update, blogs were more for 2 months or 3 months bursts. It's not going to surface up in the Google search results probably 6 months later. So you have to make pages. Like pages that will stay on forever. So that's what we did. We launched Google Guides. We said 10 looks for date night. 10 best looks for 10 must-have things when you go for a travel to a beach destination. So we started making content like that. So the first 20 pieces I made, after which we started hiring a lot of interns. So they started writing content for us. And we created these campus ambassadors in every college. We created fashion clubs in every college. So we have now 200 colleges, 10,000 students just on WhatsApp. So we have like number of WhatsApp groups, every college. So we have like batch wise, we have year wise, depending upon the size of the college and how many students we are able to get. And it's a nexus, it's like a mafia, mini mafia. So you put people in charge and you pay them stipends of 5,000 rupees and they handle the entire thing for you. If it's too big a college, you have 5 people and you pay them 10,000 rupees of stipend. And you give them targets. So this is the way we actually do it. Even for hitting that 100k downloads, this is what we started doing in the last few months, because we had to show exceptionally good numbers to show that the hockey stick growth had to be there for these people to actually invest in us.
What are the targets like? What do you mean by targets?
So we actually tell these girls, okay, we want you and your fashion club in, let's say, Jesus and Mary College or SRCC in Delhi, saying that you need to hit 25 uploads every day. That's what we did. We said, that's your target. Do it somehow, no matter what. Get your hands dirty, I don't care. But do it.
So how do they do it? They just approach people and then.
So, I mean, you're a student in a college, you're going to get your friends first, get them to sign up, get them to upload. That's the way it works. The point is, they want the money. We also told them we'll give you a certificate for whatever reason that worked. Okay, they were so happy to get a experience certificate saying that I did some internship in Google. And you're also giving them 5,000 rupees of stipend a month.
You still retain the WhatsApp.
I'm sorry?
You still retain the company still retains the WhatsApp.
Yeah. So the admins will always be. So we hired one guy again from out of NMIMS, Nasik Onji, right? So we got this guy. It was final year project. He told him to come with us full time. He's joined us full time. He's been with us for the last 2 years. He has a team of about 12 people under him now in Moopler and plenty more in colleges out there, right? So the way it works was essentially that you give this guy targets. He's the admin of every single WhatsApp group. And he handles everybody through a massive Excel sheet and his minions and their minions.
Do you strategize content for those groups as well?
As in, no.
As in like whatever content you go on.
See, we do not moderate any content that comes on the app, right? So,
Not on the
there
app,
is no
on the-
watchman.
On those groups, because of course if you have those
There's
conversations
no
going on.
groups. I mean, like, no. So, they're supposed to post it on Hoopla app, not on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is basically to coordinate people, saying that, guys, you're falling short of your metrics today, go and hit them no matter what. Otherwise, we also get a bonus component. So all of these things work. So you're going to get 5,000 and over and top of that you can earn up to 20,000 a month. So that's the kind of a system that we created. So the point is we had this nexus, or the mini mafia of sorts in every single college. And they were given targets to go. And this was only during the last 4-5 months. We still continue with it, of course, because that's where a core audience lies. And every year you have probably like 50,000-60,000 new students coming into these colleges. And that basically is that many free acquisitions that we can get, right, for very, very minimal cost. So, but actually to answer your question, your second question.
Why did the influencers in Twitter
Right. So this is where the exclusivity comes in. We never paid any of these people anything. We didn't have any money anyway, right? So the point is you're trying to say, hey, you know what, Aviva Bidappa, do you know that lady, Aviva Bidappa, she's already there. If you're meeting a model, right? Or if you're meeting a fashion designer, you say, Runa Ray is already there, you know about this girl, yeah, she's already on book, here's the profile. So you sell something, it's end of the day you become a salesman. Like in the movie Megamind, what's the difference between a good salesman and a great salesman? Presentation, right? That's what we did. So in a sense you have to like, yes you do. You'll have to say, you know what, we have got like 50 models on our system, we probably had like 3. Okay, that's what you do. And you name those 3 and you show the profiles. That's good enough for them to buy that particular lie and join the system.
Then they put something on your system.
And now start name dropping their name to other models and get them also on board. So that's what we did. Right? The first thing that you need to do is go and ask. As simple as that. Many people stop at the first stage. That's what we did. I'm sorry?
If that means which phase did you find difficult in the journey?
It gets progressively difficult. It's never more difficult earlier than later. You have difficulties of different sorts to contend with. You see,
Spend money, right? Your money, so you spend money on everything.
right. I mean, I think Venu will actually give a better idea of as to how life changes after funding, because you have a new set of metrics and you have a lot more channels to work with. Because until before pre-funding, you're just hustling. Like whatever I was doing was hustling, right? Going and conning a lot of users to joining in, and then they're like, wow, you sell them the world, and they're like, wow, it is the world, and they believe you, and they join in, and that's how the system is built. It's a chicken and egg problem, and that's how we solve it, actually. Right? And as to why people actually post on the system, especially women, so the men may not be able to directly correlate with what I'm saying right now, but the way the women's psyche works is that we learned this in the very first thing that we did at JNC, Jyoti Niwas College, which was women love receiving compliments and they love looking at pretty things. They may never buy it, but they like looking at a stream of pretty things, which is why Pinterest works. I mean, the women can corroborate to some extent, right?
You should have spouses, sisters, girlfriends.
Right. And the other thing that worked is, we also realized that end of the day, if you're able to create a community which is very strongly knit, which is to say, you know what, I love this dress you're wearing. And we have these conversations also which we have posted on Google. When we launched comments, there was a girl saying that where did you buy this shoe? Because those days we did not start tagging every individual item. You could just have one tag. If you upload a photo and you just tag the main dress or the earring or whatever. So the girls would go and comment on the system saying that where did you buy the shoes? And another girl would say I bought it at Santa Cruz somewhere, whatever. How much did it cost? And so on. So you could see conversations happening and so on. And people love that. People love receiving compliments. Women love receiving compliments. And that idea of being part of a community. It's something like, why do you upload a Facebook profile photo? Why do you change your Facebook profile photo? You want to get a lot of likes. It makes you feel good. Social gratification is what I call it. Right? So that was a driver for people to upload stuff. And exclusivity played the other big role. Saying that nobody else has got it. It's just you. You're special. Let your friends know that you're part of a system where you have also these great influencers, other great influencers on board. We did a lot of email marketing, so you may not know this. In 2012, you can't send more than 100 emails from your inbox per day. I hit the limit every single day for almost 4 months. Every single day I would send at least 100 emails. And I had to stop only because, hey, only that many were there. That's the way it works. You just keep on emailing people. You create a template. Some templates work better, so you adopt to the new template. You keep on doing A/B tests. That's the only way it works. So the initial template that we launched, it was 15%. It went up to 25% by the time I came up with my final template. And I used to mail only influencers again. So from 2012 to 2014, a lot more influencers have cropped up, mushroomed all over the place. So we targeted them.
As far as I know, SEO helps good in pull market, but Google had a push market there because you were fresh and
right. See, SEO is a long-term game. I mean, it's not like you're going to make a change in a website today and you're going to see it tomorrow. It will take minimum 3 to 5 months to propagate. Okay.
Did the conversion happen to SEO?
So we initially had about 2,000 hits coming per day. This is again 2013 stats. We had 2,000 hits coming. This is when I started blogging and then started going from blogging to starting creating Hoopla guides or pages inside the Hoopla domain. It's called guides, hoopla.com/guides. Right? So the way it worked was that when you're doing all this transition, you realize you learn quite a few tricks. So you make these changes, you wait for, we were doing 2000 hits or 2000 search inquiries were resulting in hits to Google. That actually saw a 3x rise in 3 months. So we made use of the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup. We made use of the IPL. We made use of a whole lot of all these events. That's what we need to concentrate on. You anticipate these events 2 months in advance. You make changes to your website. Start creating stuff like I think we said the best places to get jerseys to surprise your boyfriends and all that. So it was not content related to Google. We were not selling men stuff, but we said here is stuff you can get for men, and we were selling that to women. Right? Because women, one of the fundamental things that they wanted was like, okay, I have this husband or boyfriend who's got, or a brother or a father who's like crazy about Brazil or Argentina or England. Where do I get jerseys, or where do I get wallets, or where do I get merchandise related to them? So we started anticipating such content, creating such content, publishing it. We also even made contents related to drinks. Like, if you're a fan of Brazil, this is what you need to drink. So the point is, there's nothing off the table for you. You just have to keep trying. You don't know what content works. And at the end of the day, although it is not completely relevant to you, you still do it because you want hits. And at the end of the day, you have to stand in front of an investor in 3 months and tell him, hey, we got a hockey stick growth. I know we're going to have 2 more meetings, and I know you want better growth numbers, and I meet you the next time. So the only way for you to do that is try every single trade. No, do not narrow yourself down to any particular thing. If something is working for you, do not bet on it for too long, because it may not work 3 months from now. So you keep on trying new things. You exhaust as many as possible, and you pray to God that you actually get the funding.
Regarding traffic distribution, what's the current traffic distribution on the site?
Web does not really contribute much to us. We are completely mobile versus the app. So yes, that takes more like 90%. More than 90%. Probably 92, 93%. App is 93%. Even among the remaining 7%, probably 6% is going to be mobile site. Web is probably 1%.
Mobile traffic is like most of it, 99% just like that.
October stats, yes. October it was 120K.
Oh, now it's not increased, right? 6 months.
I cannot tell you any numbers as of now. Yes.
So, in the beginning phase, you said that you had influencers from Twitter.
Yes.
Right? So, were there any metrics that you were tracking, like what people are saying about you or something like that? That's one.
The first 600 people, it was a closed system. There was nobody else. They were the first 600 users.
No, you said that you met 600 influencers from Twitter.
Not Twitter, any sphere of life. They may or may not be on Twitter. For Twitter, it was 5,000 influencers. 5,000 followers was the stat that we said. We will not meet the person if she or he did not have 5,000 followers. Yes, so if they were in Bangalore, I met them. If they were not in Bangalore, email or I made a call. They were not given an invite until I spoke to them.
So, was there any kind of learning curve? Was it like first 100 people that you reached out to, was it 500, next 500 you reached out?
Not really. We just kept on meeting people. Every day I used to meet 5 people, call 10 people or 15 people. It took me 6 months to build that 600. It was not easy. It takes a lot of time, because there's only that much time you got in a day, and it was only me and one other co-founder of mine who was doing this, because at the end of the day somebody has to work on the product and the tech. So
the same question that she asked. Like basically, you also told about like how the pull strategy worked for the company, for the app, but how the push strategy worked, like what campaigns and everything you did throughout the push strategies, and like for example, website Myntra comes up with a push. Like what you did for the push strategy. Like for example, Myntra comes up with a banner, offering some discount or something like that. Discounts or different kind of
channels for push. You have email. You have, in the case of an app, you have push notifications, and that's about it. And again, if you have an app, you have in-app and tutorials and things. That's the only way. These are the only channels available to you for push. There's nothing else.
How
mostly pull.
strategy.
In the pre-funding phase, I would suggest that you focus more on pull, because you need to create a user base. It makes sense, right? I mean, if you have only 100 users, your push is going to only talk to 100 users. How do you go beyond 100? It has to be pull. So SEO is one. If you're focusing on the web, content is always king. It works, and you will not get it right even after 2 months. It's a never-ending process. You may think that you hit on a gold mine, it will stop working after some time, and then you will be wondering what to do. So you keep on trying new things. You build properties. That's what we call it. We create properties in the case of content marketing, right? It could be a feature, it could be an interview, it could be a top 10 products, top 20 products weekly, whatever it is. You keep on creating these properties and you keep selling it to a lot of people. So that you'll have subscribers for each of these. People wait for that to come. That's the only way push strategy works.
Have you categorized your newsletters as well?
So initially we did. Then there was a lull. We did not focus much on email. Now we started focusing on email again. Yes, we do have some broad categories, but a lot more work needs to be done on email, which we are not doing for lack of resources.
Pinterest also has these buy button. It was recently introduced last year, I guess.
More than a year.
Yeah, more than a year. So how is it different from Pinterest and your platform?
It is not.
Not.
See, the only difference between Pinterest and us is that we are about fresh, new, local content. Pinterest is you can just pin anything. You can pin rainbows and puppy dogs. We are about fashion.
You have mentioned a Twitter parameter of 99 and 1 for user segmentation. So how did you end up with that number?
It is not segmentation per se. It's the way any mature network, social network works. Okay? Yes. Yes, Twitter is the one which actually publicized 99-1 principle. They said, no matter what, in the initial stages, it will be much higher. The content creators will be much higher than content consumers. But as you progress, as the system matures, it'll go towards this particular stat of 99-1. It's very rare that you would find a difference. Instagram is probably one of the few players who are different.
Cash burn for the period until you were able to manage?
We did not actually. So the point is, just before the funding happened, the angel round, all our credit cards were maxed out. We had not paid any of our employees for 4 months. We were like literally living on hope. I mean, like we gave everything that we had.
So if you have access to credit card,
Yes.
it is in a way that you are on debt. So how did it affect your next round of funding?
No, it doesn't. That's my personal debt. No? So the way you're talking about capital was exhausted. On top of it, you get it in terms of reimbursements later. I mean, these are small things to be worried about. Actually, you should not look at the bigger picture. Look at a company surviving rather than hey, my bank balance is low. That would be the wrong approach.
My perspective is from an investor's perspective.
They don't care. I mean, like when you get we got $5 million, a few lakhs is chump change for them. That's peanuts. I mean, you're talking about 30 crores in the bank, and you're talking about 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs here. I mean, they'll be like, take it. You know.
How easy was it for you to get the interns from the college for writing the content? How many did you hire?
It's like any other interview process, you just have to talk to them, make them write give them an assignment, you see how you evaluate it, and then make them write. Yeah. It was a constant churn. There were like 3 coming in every 3 weeks, and then they'll leave for whatever reason. Then you get the next 3. Yeah.
Advertising on Facebook is not a right idea. So you said ads, online ads.
Yeah, I mean, so no. What I said was that if you are trying to invest in growth, before you have retention, you are essentially renting users, not acquiring them. This is a very famous quote by Tarun Mehra. Okay. So essentially, if you are doing advertising, before you even know if your product works, right? That's a terrible strategy. You need to. The best way to do it is like get users in by yourself, get minimal amount of users in, see how it works. And as I said, you don't have to use only legal means. For example, go fund a college event for 5,000 rupees. Say you're the principal sponsor, first place 3,000, second place 2,000, last place 1,000, or just winner and runner-up. Get 2,000 users. You're going to have 80% churn for sure after probably even 3 or 4 days. Forget about D7. They will uninstall. But the point is 3 days is more than enough for you to figure out, is your onboarding flow working? You have 2 or 3 different onboarding flows. You'll be able to segment it between 800 people each and figure out which one works.
What kind of app analytics tools did you use?
So initially we used only GA. Now we actually, for attribution we use Appsala. For analytics we use Localytics. But there are a lot of people who give you free stuff for the first 100k users and so on.
What was the
So
first
big
one?
span.
App Alert.
Sorry?
First one, App Alert.
AppsAlert. AppsAlert for app attribution is very similar to AppsFlyer, has offers. MAT, some of you would have heard about it. So therefore, attribution, basically from which source are you getting your install from, right? It will also have several event-based efficiencies for you to do, which Localytics will give you, but it's very cumbersome to do. For you to generate daily reports on those is probably a much more time-consuming process than otherwise. And as you progress, you'll eventually go to big data and you'll start using Hadoop. You'll even forget about Localytics. Localytics is for your first level of people, for your product managers who want some immediate numbers and so on. They need to take quick calls. They can't really wait for big data to generate the daily report and all that.
And currently, what is the percentage of iOS and Android?
It's more like 96 over.
But is there any difference at 4%? Did they engage more with that or any?
They buy more. Yeah. In the last 4 months that we have seen, in terms of commerce, iOS people buy more. They buy a lot more products than a typical Android user. Bucket size is a lot more.
Also, in earlier days, you had different categories, right? Like food, informal, and
right.
So at what point did you decide to focus fully on?
That's a good question. So initially when we started, so the question was basically when Hoopla started, it was not just fashion. There was also food and home decor and collectibles and so on. So we narrowed it down to women's fashion, not even women's and men's. It was just women's fashion. So the way we went about this was essentially the pivot that we are doing, right? So in the initial days when I would go and, so the 600 people that I pitched to, they were both men and women, okay? Almost equal, well, not equal, it was 200 men and about 400 women, approximately. So the way it would work is that I would talk to a guy for about 5 minutes, okay? I would tell him what Hoopla is. I will tell him this is the way it works, these are the pages, this is the onboarding flow, what are your thoughts on it and all that. He'll be like, whatever. At the end of 5 minutes, he'll be like, okay, now what? Okay. When I was talking to a woman, at roughly around the 40-45 second mark, she would cut me off. She would cut me off and say, okay, got it. It doesn't do this. This is the time I'm actually removing my pen and paper and I'm noting down all the points. Okay. That's when we realized that, okay, you know what, we clearly have an audience meant for women. This particular product that we created talks to women. And end of the day, I can also give you a real life scenario. So over here, so, okay, how many pairs of shoes have you bought in the last 1 year? How many pairs of shoes have you bought? 10. Okay, say 10. That's actually less, yes. So the point is, women, so men probably buy 1 or 2 pairs in a year. Women tend to buy 1 or 2 pairs every fortnight or a month. That's the truth. And if you can look at the price points, everything, it's much lower for them. Of course, the margins for the vendor is much lesser. But that's the way it works. They will be like, they may already have 2 or 3 pairs of red shoes, but they'll go and buy 1 more pair of red shoes because it does not match a particular dress that they have. That color, that shade matches this particular red shoe better. So this is the way it works. So clearly we realized, in terms of value, in terms of number of transactions that you can get out of these people, there's a whole lot more. It was a no-brainer of a choice for us to say fashion. And in terms of food, it was a difficult choice because 25% of all recommendations that were, or photo uploads that were being put up were actually food. So we had to slowly phase it out. We tweaked the algorithm, the feed algorithm, in such a way that the food stuff will actually get lower and lower priority. We'll say 1 and 10 should be food. The idea was we did not want to get an immediate backlash from people saying that, hey, I was using an app because there was food also. But after about 4 months, I realized that, hey, what happened to food? Or somebody will give us a call or give us an email saying that, what happened to food? So it was like, we were able to minimize that damage as well. So you need to be smart. You need to put yourself, empathy is what you need to work on. You need to put yourself in the shoes of your user and think like her. It's very difficult if you're a guy, but in our case especially. So we hired a lot of people.
The model initial was affiliate marketing?
The model now is affiliate marketing. We have no commerce.
Okay, so you have affiliate marketing. Okay, now the question is, when you talk about affiliate marketing, so basically you'll have Amazon, Flipkart to start with. So the platforms you use, you try to approach them directly. For example, Amazon has its own affiliate model, or you go for OMG UK and all that. So it's like combined.
Yes. So 2-part answer to that. The first part was that yes, affiliate was we did go through OMG. There was also Payum. In certain other cases, we directly tied up with them. So all 3 were there. But then the user experience was broken because I'm seeing a look. A girl sees like, you know what, I got this top and this skirt really goes well with it. I don't have it. Let me buy that. So she clicks on it and let's say it's from Forever21. She's actually going to forever21.com/in and that particular product page. And she has to go through the entire process again. She has to give her address, phone number, size, everything. So it was a broken experience. The funnel optimization, the conversions was so bad. I mean, like it was 1%, 2%, 3% for the best of the vendors. Okay? Forward 21. If you go and tell some girls 18 to 24, Forward 21, she'll like go crazy about it. She loves Forward 21, right? It's cheap, it's great fashion, and it's the latest of trends. So what then happened was that we realized we need to fix this because we need to get much better conversion, because we were working on what is called impulse buying, right? You have an impulse, at that moment you need to monetize it. If you don't, you're lost. You're lost. This is not something with intent based. This is very different. If you're searching something on Google, it's intent. Okay? You're looking for something specific, you're going to end up buying it. Chance of conversion is way higher. But impulse buys, you want it then and there. If the experience is not optimized, you're going to lose out on the customer. So what we did was to bring in in-app transactions. So we created a white label solution. We bought a white label payment solution. So we already have their postal address, their phone number, their size preferences, everything. So at the end of the day, the person has to just, the experience, it's a seamless experience, right? We don't redirect you to some website, but inside the app, you have the various product images, the description, the sizes. You just have to choose the size and it's shipped to you. It's a one-click buy. So conversions have increased to 14%. No. White label is a payment solution. The payment gateway. So we took a white label solution for it. I will not mention because at the end of the day, this is a Citrus Pay.
Part of the reason that you gave, is there one more reason that you did not want to redirect your customer to some other portal where they could really buy some other stuff?
Even the redirection will happen inside the Woopler app. So the JSP page is just opened up there. We just render the page there. You're still inside Woopler. Okay, they're not going outside the container.
In-app purchase.
In the case of affiliate, it was not. Now it is. Now it is all in-app. We don't even redirect. It's just API calls or order management system. We just take the order and then place it again on the graph of the user. We place it later on.
One more thing, since in the initial 6 months, right? Since it's a more B2C platform, right? Did you did any PR activities? Because mostly for a SaaS platform or product platform, there is like Medianum or a tech circle make your story makes much sense. But for a Woopler kind, since most of the people trying to.
So we didn't have. So this question is basically. Did I do any PR events? Right? We did not. We did not have a PR agency until the time we got funded from Helion. But we did a lot of offline events. We did. So we created these 2 flagship events. One was called the Woopathon. So we actually brought in this trend of inviting bloggers for launches of store launches or collection launches and so on. We actually pioneered it. This was back in 2012 again. So we called the top 16 bloggers. There were only 16 fashion bloggers, or maybe there were about 18 or 19, but 16 well-known fashion bloggers in Bangalore at that time. Things are very different now. We have like 400, 500 bloggers right now in Bangalore alone. So during the time, we got all of them to Avirate and DLB, the leather boutique, on this road only. Now they've shifted down the road and on the right hand side. So we did this event with them, where we brought in those people and made them, we created a hashtag. It was Bangalore trending. So that's the way we did it. So there was nothing.
So I guess we take the entire Q&A now offline. Let's start mixing around and network. And you can always reach out to Praveen.
Also, one more point, there is a SlideShare case study of Woopler, I guess, about a source and that's marketing there. So maybe you can just.
So those were the early days. So there was a free market called Sunday Sold Something. So we went over there. This was still the time when we were approaching the first 600 people. So 120 of those users came through Sold Something. So specifically handpicked women who came to certain stores. That's how we did it.
I guess there's one last question that is being raised.
So how did you approach revenue right from the very start to the maturity you have right now? How did it keep changing?
The revenue was never. So at Series A level, luckily, the VC climate at that point in time was very different. The metrics for investing in you was very different. The metrics was more on growth. Show me a lot of traction, somebody else will come and figure out how to make money. As I said, profitability is one of the main factors right now. Retention, engagement are the the better metrics that they even, you'll be lucky if they ask you for engagement retention metrics. During that time, it was more of a hockey stick growth. They didn't care if they was organically, if they realized that you were doing it, they were more than happy to invest. So that's how we got it.
Proxy for the revenues. Now it's back to revenues, unit economics.
They're looking for sound business models. They're looking at your bottom line revenues, not your top line revenues, because your top line revenues can be discounted, and based on whatever financial model that you use, a gap or EBITDA, you can actually fool the VC even. So you just need a good seed.
What is the vision like for 2020, for example, that you have for?
We don't have a 2020 vision, we have more of a 2-year vision. And honestly, you can't go beyond that because you can't. If I was that smart, I would be not be. So 2 years is to get the enable. Right now, we're going after e-com ready stores. We already onboarded the top e-commerce as well as brands in India. So now we are actually looking at SMBs. Like we already signed up 300. We'll be launching a pilot program with them and then expanding that. So that is the aim. And bringing a lot more personalization to the field.
We work with independent brands, vertical e-com, above.com now.
Yeah, we are talking to them. We are already working with Maria, Japan, Hoops. Zara is exclusive with us. Follow 21 is exclusive with us for 3 months before they went on Myntra. So these are all brand wins that we do. You get them to work with you exclusively.
Individual brands? Overseas, global individual brands?
Yeah, Follow 21 and Zara. So yes. Shop Mango, everybody is
Again, you're only going after women, right?
only women.
Then there's not in the...
So that will be a completely new vertical for us. It's not even a new, what do you say, yeah. It's not like me going to weddings and wedding wear and all
What's
that.
the traction then after you launched your commerce?
It's increased. Amount spent on the engagement time, the session times have increased. Session time per user per day has increased. Number of sessions has increased.
Marketing model, what do you have right now? How are you able to track it exactly? I believe you don't have a
Right,
proper
so if you're on, say you you have your dashboard, and otherwise if you're working with them directly, you drop a pixel, it works the same way. You just have to reverse engineer the process. So you drop a pixel and you agree upon. No, we are the affiliates. So we are not working with anybody else. It's us. So on Hoopla, you go on the screen. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the app. So the way it works is that you open it up. Yeah. So you have the image of a girl over there wearing something, and we deconstruct that look into a top and everything, and we say you can buy it over here. So when you click on it, that's the affiliate. That's Hoopla affiliate. Alright. Thanks a lot. I'll be around.
Thanks for